G'day guys, welcome to Ali on Herbs. I'm your host Peter Montgomery from thepetermontgomeryshow.com. Ali is a traditional herbalist working out of her clinic in Glenbrook in the Blue Mountains just outside of Sydney. Now, Ali is very passionate about educating the general public on the uses and benefits of common herbs that you probably have in your garden right now. So Ali, what are we going to be talking about this week?
Well, today I thought we'll talk about sage, which is also known as red sage. Its botanical name is Salvia officinalis. So remember we spoke before about making sure you identify your plants correctly before using them medicinally. Now, the reason I chose sage was, like rosemary, which we did last week, has an affinity with the brain and with mind and memory. Sage is similar. It also works on our memories. I personally use a blend of rosemary, sage, and ginkgo biloba, which I thought maybe we could do next week, as a memory blend. And I use this like when I'm at work or if I'm studying, and it's a great idea for other people, particularly in exam time, to take a mix like this. Now, sage also, which some people might already be aware of, has an affinity with the mouth and the throat. So any sort of tonsillitis, gum inflammation, any throat, sore throat, particularly we're in winter here, particularly this time of year, a sage tea used as a gargle is a great idea to clear up the mouth and throat. And traditionally too, I've got some sage here from my garden. I only picked a little bit, if you can see that there. You can use the sage leaves to clean your teeth because, like I said, they've got the essential oils in here and other properties that help with inflammation and gum disease. But the texture of the leaf is quite rough, so you can just, pull it off. And so if you're in the garden and you feel like you need a bit of mouth freshening, just pick some sage leaf and go for it. And lastly, another use for sage is many women have success with hot flushes, like for menopause, that can bring about hot flushes, or even any sort of fever. Sage tea can help just to reduce that as well.
Okay, so how can you actually use it now? That's kind of what it does. How do you actually make the teas or use it in that way?
Well, the teas, again, you use about a tablespoon of the fresh leaves in a cup full of hot water. Like you put your fresh leaves in the bottle. You might want to just scrunch them up a little bit just to break them up. And you pour on your hot water. And it's important to cover it and leave it for at least 15 minutes, just to get to the medicinal effects. And like I said, for any sort of gum disease or sore throat, a gargle is fantastic with the sage. But one thing I must stress is that sage also reduces breast milk. So if you're breastfeeding, stay away from the sage. And the other thing is if you're pregnant, because it can also stimulate the uterus. So we do not want that in pregnancy. So if you're pregnant, also to stay away from the sage. Eat it culinary, like in your food, fine. But when you start to take it in higher doses, medicinal doses, that is when you need to be more cautious.
Okay, now actually I had a question last week from somebody who saw the episode on rosemary, and it might relate to the sage as well. Can you use the stick? Do you have to take the leaves off, or could you just throw the whole stick in?
Okay, for both those plants, it's a really good question actually, Pete, because the medicinal qualities are in different parts of the plants. For both sage and rosemary, it's mainly in the leaves. And if you're familiar with the plants, the ends of the plants where the stem is, it's quite soft, and you can use those bits. But when it starts to get really hard, the barks and stems are a lot harder to draw the medicinal qualities out of. So yeah, just the leaves and the loose little bits of twig up higher up near the leaves.
Okay, but if you just happen to use the hard bit of the stick, there's no ill benefits.
Kill you or anything, but it's just because when you start
benefit.
using you don't want that. When you start using the bark and twigs to use medicinally, then you don't make a tea. You make what's called a decoction, which is you're simmering the plant matter, for an hour or 2 hours or so to draw out the medicinal qualities. So yeah, but when we're using the leaves and just like I said, the softer bits of twigs, then a cup of tea. Yeah, but it's a good question. It's a good question.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ali, and I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Pete. I'll see you later.